Wednesday, the 23rd day of March, 2016. I'm Alex Jones, your host. We'll be here for the next 4 hours. Have another big broadcast lined up for you, obviously. Larry Nichols had to basically stage/class war. And he's been predicting it for the last year. He's out of the hospital. He's going to be joining us for 30 minutes, the first half of the next hour. Dr. Kelly Ward, who is beating John McCain 3, 5, 8, and even 10 points in scientific polls there in Arizona. She will be joining us to talk about Obamacare, this election, and more. Leanne McAdoo is going to be popping in on the broadcast as well twice today. Wants to talk about some of her experiences here at the InfoWar, but also I want to get her in, because I saw her about an hour ago, 45 minutes ago or so, back in the office, and she was saying, did you see what Donald Trump was talking about last night on CNN? And I went and actually, we're getting the transcript, and I specifically went and looked it up. We've got the video clip talking about all the surveillance, all the police state to keep us safe, and how great that's all going to be. Here's my problem. If we're going to make America great again, America has to be free again. And I think Donald Trump means well. He's right about the trade deals. The globalists hate him for real reasons. But we need to influence Trump to understand they have plenty of surveillance. The FBI knew 2 years before who the San Bernardino shooters were and were ordered to stand down. Now, I've called the situation over in Brussels a false flag. It's a real terrorist attack, probably. There's real Islamic terror, but who brought them in? Who protected them? If you open the door and you're part of it, then it's a staged government event, even if there's real actors. But probably a better word is a stand down is probably better than a false flag. I saw a big debate in a video I shot for Facebook Mentions about whether it was a false flag or not. And most people agreed you could call it that, but really it'd be better to call it a stand down, let it happen, which is just as bad. The point is they're bringing these people in unvetted and then acting like Donald Trump has 14 heads and then he's from Mars when he says we should just have basic border security. So I like Donald Trump and I want to support him. But man, you know, this whole thing, I told you months ago the FBI can get into iPhones, and it was in the news Sunday and Monday. Oh, Fox News broke it. Guess what? They were already in the iPhone. They have ways to get around it. I've talked to tech people. It's not even that hard, especially with an older version. iPhone, it's not even close to super hard. And that's now confirmed. Again, you heard it here first. Now, separate that, though. I've got my concerns about Trump, but man, Ted Cruz. Goldman Sachs, CFR, worked for Bush Sr., his wife helped Honcho, TPP, NAU, and he said it here last Wednesday, and it now came true last night and this morning. Jeb Bush, as bad as it gets, Mr. New World Order himself, has now endorsed Ted Cruz. Ted Cruz has supported NSA spying, speaks out against it, but supports it. See, it's kind of refreshing to have Trump running around saying it's a great idea, even though I disagree with him. At least in his mind, he thinks, stop the terrorist. But this is really, really another nail in the political coffin, in my view, of Ted Cruz. I mean, I can just see him getting into the presidency, and then George W. Bush, was like against interventionism and pro-gun and all this stuff, till he got into the White House, and then all that went by the wayside. We're going to open the phones up, get your take on this as well, the latest on the terror attacks over in Brussels, Belgium, and more. Hey, did you know that one American was at all three bombings? That's right, ladies and gentlemen. Freedom is what generates wealth and is what generates greatness. Tony Montana in Scarface says, first you get the money, then you get the power, then you get the woman. Well, that's not really my experience. First, you get the freedom. Then you get the greatness. Then you get the civilization. The problem is, then you get the corruption and the decadence that sets in from a great nation, a great society, a wealthy power. But even before freedom comes honor. Even before we can make America free again, we must make America honorable again. I know so many people that think lying and twisting and engaging in disinformation is what gives them power to rule over and con ignorant people. That is the blood, that is the ether, that is the atmosphere of oppression and enslavement. And it will ultimately bring down the very parasites that use it to come to power. It is the plague, it is anathema, it is a total and complete fraud. I have a hat that I wear out in public only to condition the brainwashed, politically correct folks in liberal areas of Austin, Texas. It's a camouflage hat, Make America Great Again, that I got from the Donald Trump website. My son likes to wear the red one that says that has an American flag on the side. No, Trump's not a sponsor. I'm just making a point here. My older daughter also likes Trump and wears Trump t-shirts. That's their choice. And I say, don't completely trust Trump. You know, he could have some problems. He could turn around and bite us in the rear end. But I still wear it so that people can ridicule me. I don't wear it in conservative areas. I wear it so my children can watch me not care when trendies get upset by something, so they can learn that what matters is what's going on inside of you that you know is right from your own research and your own history, not what jellyfish think. But I will say this. I'm backing Trump because the establishment's scared to death of him, and he's right on maybe 7 out of 10 major issues. He's wrong on surveillance. He's wrong on police state. He is wrong on things like torture. And he's reversed himself on torture, partially on the surveillance. I told everybody months ago, because it's known they have a back door, not through the front-end encryption, but to break into the hardware and the hard drive of the iPhone. Especially if it's an older version. It's easy if it's an older version. It's harder if it's brand new. That's why they're always updating it. They've gone to a 6-digit code if you're not using the thumbprint. Apple's are some of the best because it's a closed system. Obviously. A very evil company, but I'm stating their security's better. I'm not an IT person. I just read the top reviews. I've experienced it myself. And they came out the last 2 days and admitted in the news, okay, the FBI actually did get in the phone. Okay, they do have a back door into it. And not just through the hardware or software. The apps, most of the big, ubiquitous with major governments and Interpol, to have back doors through the app. Just like hackers get into iPhones all the time and get into the cloud and you name it. They can get into your phone through the cloud. They can get into it through Spotify. They can get in through it through websites. It's ridiculous to have the FBI claim that they couldn't get into it. And within a week, Apple came out and said, okay, we remotely access the phone. The FBI is already in it. It's total bull. Okay? And I just want to point out, we told you again first because we know what we're talking about. I'm not bragging. We've reverse engineered it. We understand it. Now, that said, it's legal and lawful to have the NSA spying on targets overseas. It's its job. And I've had William Binney, the top living code breaker, top mathematician, 4th and 5th dimensional thinker, and I've had 2 3-hour dinners with him. Talk about amazing. Didn't tell me anything secret. He just talked about quantum mechanics and mathematical overlays and things like 4th dimensional holograms. I'm not bragging. He couldn't believe, because I hadn't even read this in science books. I was sitting there talking to him right there in front of some of the crew that went at a steakhouse. And I was talking about, in mathematics, how scientists 100 years ago predicted that when a probe finally flew over Saturn, interdimensional forces of a gas giant that size would manifest structural codes on the surface of the gas giant at the poles and would manifest a hexagon. Now, I didn't envision that. They envisioned it 100 years ago, and sure enough, when the first probes, was it Voyager? flew over it, there was the interdimensional manifestation. And I said, let me guess, is that how you break some of these really supposedly impossible to break codes? Is an interdimensional shadow? And he said, he goes, how do you know that? That's incredibly classified. And I said, but it's actually out there in mainline literature. And my dad, 5 or 6 years ago, said, you watch, it's going to be holograms and interdimensional publications. So the truth is, it's just, there's nothing really hidden. And even somebody like William Binney doesn't know that that knowledge is actually already out there in the general public. There's not much that isn't out there, okay? There isn't much that's out there. And they can have White House-run publications make fun of me when I make statements like that and things. That's fine, because that's for their idiot audience that are pseudo-intellectuals and think they know everything. The reason I talk about our bona fides and the fact that we know so much is because people need to understand we're not playing games here. We mean to defeat the globalist. We mean to study the enemy and expose their operations and save human sovereignty. I want it for myself and my family. If I'm going to get it, it means you need to get it too. We're in this together. I absolutely care about everybody, and not because I'm some sap, but because I'm a man and because I am a warrior. When it comes down to being a warrior, that means raising strong kids, standing up for the culture, and being the best, most honest person I can be. Not because I'm Mr. Goody Two-Shoes, but because I understand that's what builds a safe and good society. All you cheaters and crooks and the rest of you that think being dirty so cool, you're nothing but chumps lying to yourselves. And I'm sick of you. Now that said, I've got some issues with Donald Trump and his police state statements. We're going to talk about at the bottom of the hour, play some clips. We have another clip from Roger Stone, the consummate Trump insider, last week with us. What, last Wednesday, was it? I'll look at the date we play the video. And he said, you watch, Jeb Bush will endorse him the next few weeks. Jeb Bush has now endorsed, not Donald Trump, of course, but as he predicted, Ted Cruz. And that is a big blow, confirming he was a Bush sleeper cell. We thought it was really bad news when we saw Marvin Bush take over his financing of his campaign. We thought it was bad news his wife was CFR and ran and commanded the TPP ram through when it was first being written 4 years ago. We thought all of that was bad, the Goldman Sachs connection. But let me tell you, I would go off his past votes. Neil Bush, Marvin Bush, you name it, getting involved in his campaign. I would take his past votes and say he's pro-Second Amendment, you name it. I'm going to trust him off his 4-year record and ignore the previous stuff. But having them come in and support them now means I don't trust them at all. Let's go ahead and go to this, Roger.
Sure. The fact that Donald Trump may have 1,237 votes, a majority on the first ballot, is almost irrelevant to the kingmakers, to the party elites. Look, they're petrified. And here's why. Trump is uncontrollable to them. So let's not assume that just because the bosses and the kingmakers want to steal this, that they are going to be successful. Trump has the most important power on his side, public opinion. And as Abraham Lincoln said, public opinion in this country is everything. The big steal is going to be very difficult for the bosses to carry out. It's interesting to me, and I predict again, George W. Bush's clan, particularly Jeb Bush, will be endorsing Ted Cruz shortly, because Ted Cruz is a Bush family retainer. Ted Cruz isn't the constitutional conservative you think he is. He's a globalist. He's backed by Goldman Sachs. His wife and he are minor servants for the Bush family. She worked for Condoleezza Rice, getting us into the phony Iraq War. Then she went over and worked for Robert Zoellick, the U.S. Trade Representative, former president of the World Bank, former president of the Council on Foreign Relations.
And now the Federal Reserve's giving money to him and Hillary, but none, zero to Donald Trump. Another incredible endorsement.
Yeah, he's Dr. Evil. Look, if you ask me, Donald Trump has a long list of thank you notes that he has to write. He's got to send one to the Pope. He's got to send one to the Chinese government. He's got to send one to Vicente Fox. He's got to send one to Mitt Romney. Now he's got to send one to the Washington Post. All of these attacks are backfiring. All they're doing is winning votes for Donald Trump.
All right. We're going to put the full 3.5-minute clip up the next 20 minutes to Infowars.com and PrisonPlanet.com, because it's one thing to have the Bushes endorse them, but it's another thing to have the backstory of what this signifies and what this means. Ted Cruz is a surrogate for the Bushes. Their name is used up. Their name is blown. They are back. And it's even in the National Review, Ted Cruz, the Bush years. So I'm sorry, Ted Cruz has got his old handlers running him, and I don't trust him now. I'm done with Ted Cruz. That's it. And of course, Benedict Arnold himself, the man that says you're going to hell if you don't vote for Ted Cruz, Glenn Beck is for him as well. I mean, we would be insane to be for Ted Cruz. He's super bad news. By the way, I know a lot of you listen to this broadcast while you're at work or while you're driving or later when you're cooking dinner. Remember, you're in the info war. You're the tip of the spear. You're just as important as I am in force multiplication. You are the resistance. Infowars.com, PrisonPlanet.com, our Facebook, our Twitter. Those are all platforms full of incredible interviews, incredible videos, incredible breaking news. So much of which I don't get to because I'm not good sometimes. I get obsessed on little points. But believe me, there is a massive important intel and weaponized truth, because truth is all powerful, at Infowars.com and PrisonPlanet.com that is amazing. Tim Kennedy, as high-level special forces as it gets, the top secret units, you name it, just stuff that's beyond anything in movies. I'm just going to leave it at that. Not that I've learned about it from him. I've learned about it here and there in other places. Amazing. And he comes out and says the government is letting terror attacks happen to take our freedoms. That interview, that 10-minute segment of the hour-and-a-half interview is on Infowars.com. How important is that? He comes out and says the video showing him shoot up the car in the truck in Oregon is wrong, and that's not what you do, and that he knows the guys that did it. And then I'm not at liberty to tell the rest of the story. He didn't say what he wouldn't say or would say once he got on air, and then he just talked about it on air. And understand, folks, just him coming on air is a big deal, because obviously he's been threatened repeatedly last time and this time, and of course it's having the opposite effect. And he represents basically the general feeling of Army Special Forces, I can tell you that. And he said that on air. Wow, the most elite of the Army, on average, are as awake as I am or more, and are concerned to the point that basically one of their leaders, he's pretty much their mascot, their leader, the guy they look up to, comes on this show and tells you that. That's not me bragging. That's dangerous. I was actually sick at my stomach yesterday about that interview for what it signifies, the level we've gotten to. I feel good about it, and I've told you about this kind of stuff for years behind the scenes, but this is a real battle for the country, people. Underworld government. They're bringing in radical Muslims to let them attack us to take our freedoms. Tucker Carlson's a smart guy. Came on and said the left hates the West and just feels sorry for radical Muslims. That's why they bring them in. Yeah, grassroots liberals, but not the leadership. They know full well what they're doing. Tim Kennedy's right. And there's just tons of powerful info like that on Infowars.com right now. The Tucker Carlson interview is called Why the Left Loves Jihadists. And let me tell you something, there's all these mainline leftists that mean well out there, and I've got some problems with some of the right-wing positions as well. I'm a libertarian. But radical Islam is taking over Islam, and it is the most oppressive, twisted, bizarre, hateful, bullying, bossy, arrogant, in-your-face garbage. And the elites that we have, Google, Facebook, Microsoft, Apple, the Democratic Party, with the neocons, have run, turning the most evil, cowardly trash you can imagine loose on more than 10 countries. Our military finally had a breaking point, as I told you 5 years ago when this went operational, and they were told to deliver weapons to actual al-Qaeda operatives who would shoot their mouths off at them. And then I had the whistleblowers on from the Justice Department and the CIA and you name it. People always said whistleblowers would never speak out. Oh, yes, they will. They know they get persecuted. They know people come after them. There's a certain point where people go, listen, we're not working with al-Qaeda. You got that? And I told you we reached that point 4 or 5 years ago. And that's a good thing, but it's also extremely dangerous to realize that we were right. It was worse than we thought. And we're really controlled by people this evil. And it comes out in the open, and none of them are getting in trouble. That's the problem. Yes, our military has said no. That's why they want to have a civil war, because they know local governments are awake, a lot of state governments are awake, the military's awake, a lot of the police are awake, so they want a civil war to overthrow the system so bad that government has to become tyrannical just to support civilization, and then they think they can control the system at the top. That's why they're pushing us into chaos, because out of the chaos, they want to bring tyranny in, just like Tim Kennedy said here yesterday. I mean, you know, that's what it comes down to. Will you listen to top Delta Force people? Monday through Friday, we're here from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. Central. I'm your host, Alex Jones. Leanne McAdoo is joining us. She's going to be hosting the 4th hour today. I'm going to go to her in just a moment to break down the latest election developments, Cruz being endorsed by Jeb Bush, and Trump coming back with more troubling police state statements that we're going to be going over. And again, I'm a Trump supporter, but I hold my nose sometimes. And if I get him back on the show, which he says he's going to come on soon, or I'm going to get his sons on, I mean, I'm going to raise those points. I like the fact that he's brazen out in the open. I don't trust the other candidates. I'll say that right now. But I've got some concerns. We're going to talk to Leanne about some of her concerns. She was raising them to me this morning, and I was already having them as well, so I thought we'd discuss it. Briefly, though, we are listener supported. If people don't buy the products, we don't continue on and operate. And man, sometimes we get a whole bunch of orders of t-shirts, books, videos, water filters, and we're doing great. And I'm hardly even plugging. And then sometimes I'm plugging and people aren't buying anything. We won't exist if that, happens. Obviously, we're doing okay. I want to get a few more reporters, a couple more camera people so I can have more people out in the field. We need to get 5 or 6 more people, and I think we're basically done at that point because, I put on all sail here in the fight against the globalists, to use an old naval term. We really have great products. The spring is about to be here. We have the widest selection of more than, 14 different high-quality, non-GMO, heirloom seed companies at InfoWarsStore.com. From fruit trees right down to heirloom tomatoes, you name it, the widest selection you're going to find at close to the lowest or very competitive prices. It varies. But I sign contracts with these well-known companies that I won't even go below the prices I have, then it's in the contract that occasionally I can have sales. But you notice I don't ever really have seed sales because they're already as low as we can go. I'm a capitalist. I believe in it. Give them as gifts if you live in an apartment. Plant them on highway, green spaces. A lot of guerrilla farming's going on. It's very, very exciting. Get out there. If you have a farm, plant a garden. Give it to friends and family. Have your grandchildren out. Do it. Just turn off the cable TV. Turn off the establishment media. Get back to the earth. This is such a big part of coming out of the system. Tim Kennedy was talking about it here yesterday. Go to the seed banks. Order those today. InfoWarsLife.com. InfoWarsStore.com. InfoWarsStore.com is the big umbrella site with the shortwave radios, the Hillary for Prison t-shirts, the Molon Labe, the survival seed vaults, the entire spectrum, the books, the videos, the shortwave radios. It's all there at InfoWarsStore.com. InfoWarsLife.com is a subsection that has the nutraceuticals that we produce and we put out. We believe Brain Force is the best nootropic that isn't $100 out there. It's $29.95. The leading competitor is $60 and is not as good. They even had them call me up and say, we looked at your formula, it's better than ours, and half the price. Why are you doing that? It's not to compete with them, because we're not really in competition. The market's so big, okay? It's that I treat you like I want to be treated. And we still make a good profit on this to fund the operation. Maybe I should raise the prices. Brain Force, get a bottle today. We have a limited time specials at InfoWarsLife.com. 20% off our new Ultimate Liver Cleanse Pack. The Liver Shield, the Deep Cleanse, and the Oxy Powder. 20% off when you get all three of them together. 15% off when you get Ultimate Cleanse Pack of Liver Shield and Deep Cleanse together, or 10% off with Liver Shield on its own. By the way, I talked to Roger Stone. He didn't really plug it. He said, I love your Liver Shield. It really works. Gives me a lot of energy. It's amazing. Yeah, it's known concentrated herbs down to an oil level that are designed to really help you. So check it out for yourself. In fact, one reason you were going to pop in today before the 4th hour, Leanne, but let's just do it now before we get into the news. I hadn't even thought of this. You and your good friend, and there's a video on the Liver Cleanse page on InfoWarsLife.com where you break it down. You did the liver and gallbladder cleanse. Without getting into details here, spending too much time, what did it do for you guys?
Well, it pretty much changed my life. I mean,
we're going to turn her mic on. Hold on. Go ahead and turn her mic on. Go ahead.
It pretty much changed my life. Like, it was what I needed to help give me that boost to be able to change my habits, because there you have 6 days where you're kind of.
By the way, I want to start over and apologize. You don't like audio in your ear, so they weren't sending me your audio, and I apologize to you and the crew that I'd forgotten that I had no audio. Sorry. Start over, Leanne.
Well, thank you.
Teleprompter free. This is not scripted. Go ahead.
Well, I'm saying the liver cleanse changed my life. Like, it was 6 days where I had to dedicate myself to resetting my habits. And I had to prove to myself that I could avoid the propaganda with the commercials. And, like, I don't even like fast food at all. I never eat it. But I got to the point where I was, like, driving, and I'm like, maybe I should just pull into this fast food place. And because you really, truly do have to bypass all of those things in your body that are trying to convince you to just fail. And this was awesome. It slimmed me down. I have not.
By the way, tell folks how much weight you lost, because you looked really good and you looked young, but I'm not kidding. You were glowing during it and after, and you guys literally look 5 years younger.
Yeah. No, it was awesome. It like brightened up my skin. The thing for me was this little fat pocket in my upper belly that I could just not get rid of. I didn't know where it was coming from. And that was where it flushed out, was right here around my ribs. And that
you were already in great shape.
Come back. It hasn't come back, and that for me was key.
What did your friend? What did she experience? Because I mean, there's a video about it on the site, but just break it down for folks, Leanne.
Well, the same thing with Emmy. I mean, she was just glowing, tons of energy, and you can see she really slimmed down there. Her belly was just like whoop. You could see all her little.
And how fast did that happen?
That was in 6 days.
Wow.
That was 6 days.
Dude, you know, as an athlete, coaches basketball, had a college scholarship in basketball. He's not a fat guy at all, but he lost 12 pounds in 1 week just from what was stuck in his guts.
Right. And that's the thing. It's like, you know, everyone has to take care of themselves and take care of their digestive tract. And I would just like to point out my after picture.
Leanne, I'm impressed. I mean, you look great before, but you really did lose some tummy fat.
You can see also under my chin, in my face.
Yeah, let's put that back up.
I lost some.
Wow, you did lose weight under your chin.
Under my chin, and you can see the little, like, on the before picture, you can see there was kind of like that little pudgy thing in the back, and it slimmed down. And
that was 6 days.
That was in 6 days.
I'm doing it right now, but I'll be honest, it's not hard to do, but it is.
It's not hard. You can eat.
But it is kind of a hassle. I mean, I kind of got off it a little bit yesterday. I'm back on it today. I just have a problem doing it.
Right. Well, that's the thing that I talked about in this video, is that how are you supposed to resist tyranny if you can't even resist the taco stand? If you can't let commercials program you and say, ooh, get this burger, do this, do that. How are you supposed to not allow other propaganda to take hold of your life? And that's what this was for me. It was like me being in charge, taking hold of my life, clearing out my system, getting myself awakened and my thoughts pure. Because, you know, we have all these jumbled thoughts from all the toxins that we're putting in our body.
By the way, I'm impressed. I mean, you guys aren't camera people like I'm not camera people. You guys went and shot this all yourselves. So it's amateur, but it looks professional. And you did a great job. And people can go to InfoWarsLife.com to the Deep Cleanse Liver Shield page and see their informational video, Dr. Group's video, my breakdown. Without getting into any details, 98% of people I talk to within a day have the big event happen. And did you guys have the big event happen?
Well, what do you mean?
You know, the big cleanse, the big final day, what you do on the 6th day. The 7th day, what happened? God rested on the 7th day, but with this cleanse,
Well, see, that's the thing is, like, you've got to follow the directions that Dr. Group puts out. Like I said, I did the wrong salt. And so it ended up that I didn't flush out all of that salt. So I had to do an additional day with the proper directions. So
that's right. You did it with sea salt instead of the Epsom salt.
And when I did the oil, the olive oil, I laid down on my side and I immediately started hearing in my body and feeling it going, and like all these little globules, like just coming out, like I could hear them popping out of my gallbladder. It was
the reason
weird.
People's gallbladders burst, and so you did it right on the final day. It was
I mean, granted, I'm mostly a vegetarian. I eat a lot of vegetables and stuff, so I'm pretty healthy. So it wasn't super extreme. Now Emmy had some that were like this big, and they were black.
Ugh.
So yeah,
I'm not going to say what happened to me, but let's just say, like the movie Alien. And it really freaked me out because I was rolling my eyes 4 years ago when Anthony and Group were doing these, and people were saying that it was the best cleanse ever. And I finally did it about a year and a half ago, and then now I'm doing it again. And it is simply amazing how your body is battling and taking all these toxins in and then doesn't know what to do with them, so creates these crystals.
Right. Yeah, and that's the thing is, how are we supposed to have clear thoughts, empowered bodies, empowered minds, if our bodies are so weighed down with toxins?
Folks, you should do the liver cleanse today. There's a big advanced one with what to eat and what to do for 6 days. I just do the basic one. It's pretty easy to do, and I had spectacular results. Now, I didn't do everything I was supposed to, so it took a day and a half for it to happen. Because the same thing with me, I called Group up, and I said nothing happened in the morning. He goes, well, what kind of salt did you use? And I go, I didn't do the salt. And he goes,
well, there you go.
You got to do the 2 or 3 caplets of Epsom salt.
Right.
So I did that the next night in olive oil again, and then
yeah, and that's exactly what happened with me. I didn't use the Epsom salt. I used a different kind of salt.
I just didn't do it, period.
And you can't do that.
Well, it's amazing. InfoWarsLife.com, InfoWarsStore.com. That's how we fund the operation as well. So you can't lose. I mean, look, we're fighting for your Second Amendment. We're fighting for your property rights. We're fighting for your family rights. We're fighting for your religious rights. We're fighting together. We don't want to be thanked for it. We're all in this together. It's just that we need your support if you believe this operation is important. And again, a lot of you are WashingtonPlanet.tv member, watch the nightly news, you name it. Okay, I want to shift gears now out of that, Leanne, into your concerns and my concerns about Trump. But first, let's just go over some of the news that's happened in the last 24 hours that ties into this to give folks kind of a background here. Shocking. Obama laughs and meets with, of course, Raul Castro. That was his second day in Cuba at a baseball game and other events with the communist dictator after Brussels terror attack.
Just a few hours, moments after giving his little heartfelt 40-second speech.
And he's on ESPN. Show TV viewers this article and the photo. The video is amazing, just laughing and giggling, talking for an hour about baseball, but 56 seconds about the terror attack.
Yeah.
They take our freedoms in the name of fighting terror. He leaves the border open. He brings the jihadis in, but there's no discussion.
Well, this is his dream job. He cannot wait to shake off the whole leader of the free world thing, because really he wants to be an ESPN.
Well, you're right. In fact, he said that.
Yeah,
he wants to be an ESPN sports center.
Look, he's in his element right here. Look at that smile on his face. He doesn't want to be the president. So why can't he just get out now? Like,
he vacations. I mean, I thought Bush was bad watching sports center
taxpayer
vacationing.
dollars. Hard at
Well,
work.
he's a total puppet, and I mean, even worse than Bush, if that's possible. But for me, the media's not mentioning with a dictator.
Right.
He's with a dictator at a dictatorship, telling us how great it is.
But a lot of Cubans are very upset about it. Those that have actually been exiled here to this country, or who came on rafts to escape
Exactly.
this man.
Plus, the country is collapsing.
Right. And then he takes a picture in front of Che the day before,
Che Guevara,
as if that wasn't.
who said that native groups were basically subhuman idiots.
And black people. He's very racist.
Oh, yeah. I mean, folks
people.
have no idea how racist the upper class in Latin America is.
But he's a hipster hero.
I've been down there at the, quote, upper class people's houses, and they make these racist statements. And it's happened in Mexico, too. And I'm like, hey, I'm not racist. I was raised in the U.S. I'm not into this. Che Guevara wrote a book where he called native Indians and blacks. I'm not going to even quote what he said. He called the natives roaches, and he called blacks, well, you know what the name is. He called them basically, well, go look it up for yourself. It's unbelievable.
Yeah. No, he's very insulting.
But this is what communists think of people. They hate the little people. They call Appalachian people white trash, white gorillas, and they call them bitter clingers. It's all the same crud, folks. They call us all scum.
Well, see, and that picture for me, because, he's sort of the hipster hero, he's the revolutionary and everything, and then you've got a lot of these Black Lives Matter people out there protesting, not understanding that they're being orchestrated by George Soros and other billionaires to do their thing.
And Obama agreed on this whole trip. This is all iconic, communist. His campaign stuff was communist. It's crazy. And when he's not a communist, he's a fascist coming in with select corporations like Google, who will have a monopoly in Cuba now.
Oh, yeah.
Notice, they're keeping it tyrannical because they're going to control, just like China.
Oh, no, I'm sure they're going to give them a free and open internet. Come on.
Well, what's incredible is they're just going to let select companies in on top of it.
Right.
It really is fascism using communism, and the left loves it. Jeb Bush backs Ted Cruz for president, CNN. This was predicted now 7 days ago on Wednesday with Roger Stone. We played it earlier. What do you make of that? I mean, for me, that is a political nail in the coffin, Leanne.
Yeah, well, and that kind of ties into what I wanted to talk about with Trump today, because now, Heidi Cruz has come out responding to Trump, saying that he's going to spill the beans on her secrets as well. So she responds to him. And one of the things that she's really pushing is that Ted Cruz is the only candidate that is for the Constitution. And so now they're really going to be pointing out how he's there for the Constitution.
That's right. Trump wants to act tough and blue collar, and let's torture people and let's spy on the terrorist. And that is going to blow up in his face with libertarians and others. He's got to stop it.
Yeah, he really does. And so that's where they're going to really start playing them off, because you think they say, Trump, oh, he's crazy. He doesn't know what he's talking about. He's racist, this, that. But as soon as the terror attacks are going on, they don't even know the body count yet. They're like, let's get Trump on the phone. Like, let's let him talk and tell us what's going on.
Sure, and he was right. He said Brussels is going to get hit. He mentioned Brussels specifically. Mm-hmm. That's where the terrorists are living and staying. They've basically taken the city over. Of Brussels, Belgium. And so Trump's right about so many things. And it turns out the police knew these guys. They were involved in organized crime, connected to terrorists. Again, nothing was done, Leanne.
Right. Well, and the other guy was being until they picked him up a week or so ago, he was being protected by people in the Molenbeek neighborhood for months. They knew he was walking around in the grocery store, and they didn't turn him in.
And this was an attack on the United States. They targeted the American Airlines line, blew up a bunch of Americans. And, I'm sick of it. I'm tired of these people that want to kill Americans when most Americans have open arms. And Belgium is so liberal, and Spain and all these countries let these people in, Germany, France, and then they attack them. They're just so arrogant. They are so entitled. They think they're on this jihad. And now the West will just use this to bomb innocent Muslim countries.
Right.
Let's go to clip number 1. This is what you're concerned about with Trump. Should there be added security at the TSA? Let's go to that clip.
You're from New York City, where there are at least three major airports, the most trafficked train station in the country. Should there be added layers? I know security is always high in New York, especially after 9/11, but should there be added levels of security put in place right now? For example, at airport baggage claim centers, train stations, other places.
Yes, there should. And, we have a mayor who's doing a terrible job, and everybody talks about it. He's doing a terrible job in so many ways, de Blasio. He's a disaster as a mayor and probably will be challenged. I can't imagine that he gets away with this, but he knocked out surveillance and so many other things. We had the finest surveillance of the whole radical Islam situation that there is, they say, in the world, the New York City Police Department,
all right,
which is an amazing department. And
right, and so, of course, now he's talking about that
we're going to skip the break.
Secret NYPD surveillance program that they had to dismantle.
That's right, Leanne. Now, again, he's right when he says shut it all off till you check them, don't let them in. Mm-hmm. That's what you do at your border. That's what you do with people from these countries. You don't let them in. You don't then surveil everyone and spend $4 billion on surveillance equipment in New York, $2 billion in Boston since 9/11. The East Coast has spent over $10 billion in all sorts of spy gadgets and mobile X-ray vans and checkpoints and searches. We're not against the police themselves. We're against the policy of the TSA groping our genitals, putting us in naked body scanners, and then they allow the Muslim Brotherhood and Saudis, that's in the news, to bypass it. It's all a fraud. It's all a hoax. That's why Trump's wrong.
And they dismantle this secret surveillance program because it was a violation of the constitutional rights of the people there, but yet they're surveilling the rest of the country.
Absolutely, yeah. Leave the radical Muslims alone. Go over to the FBI when they do their job, but then target the Tea Party and say we're the #1 terror threat. We got a bunch of clips. Let's go to this other clip. He says change the law on torture. So first he backs off torture because they say it's illegal. Now he says change the law. Don't like this. Here it is.
I think we have to change our law on the waterboarding thing where they can chop off heads and they can drown people in cages and heavy steel cages, and we can't waterboard. So we have to change our laws, and we have to be able to fight at least on an almost equal basis. We have laws that we have to obey in terms of torture. They have no laws whatsoever that they have to obey.
That's enough. That's enough.
And so,
look, we don't become, because Jeffrey Dahmer kills teenagers or Ted Bundy kills women, we don't go out and do it because somebody else did. They're ISIS and Al-Qaeda because they target innocents, they torture people. We don't start doing that. George Washington didn't allow that because you lose the moral high ground. Now, let's expand on that. And I want Leanne to comment. He's meaning to say, let's get tough on terrorists. The problem is they're going to do it to us, folks. They're not going to do it to the terrorists who the establishment and who Hillary and who others have been arming and putting in charge. They're bringing radical Islam in to attack us. Trump could not be more wrong on this, but at least he's honest and says, let's change the law. Go ahead.
Well, I honestly do not feel as though Trump is coming from a malicious place. I honestly think that he wants to keep America safe. I think that he truly is wanting to talk tough and saying, listen, they're putting people in cages and electrocuting them and doing all this torture.
Yeah, these guys are animals. They don't deserve the same rights we've got.
Right, and so why can't we treat them the same way? And so I get it where he's coming from, where he truly feels like he wants...
Sure, at least he's being honest. I mean, the other people just do the torture to get false confessions and then basically say they're not doing it.
But that was the big warning. Don't trade your liberty for security.
Because you get tyranny, absolutely. Let's go to this other clip, and you've got another list that we'll get pulled up and go to. We have a radical Islamic problem.
Yeah, he's one of the only people that'll actually say it, so kudos to him for that.
What's beyond that, Islam has been taken over by the radicals in almost every area. Our government puts radical jihadists in to take over countries that aren't radical.
And then we'll never whisper the words.
Yeah, our government and other governments are behind it, folks. Like Tim Kennedy said, they're bringing them in to attack us to take our freedom. That's what Trump doesn't get. Let's go to this clip.
What do you say to the millions of Muslim Americans who are very patriotic, loyal Americans, many of whom have sons and daughters who serve in the U.S. military, who feel they would be discriminated against if these policies went forward?
I say we have a problem. We have a radical Islamic terrorism problem. That's what I say. I have to say that. We have a problem like we've never had before. This is a problem that has gone on. General Pershing had the problem in 1919 in the Philippines with radical Islamic terrorism. And he handled it a certain way. I think you probably know that story. It's a very gruesome story. But you know what? The problem didn't exist for 48 years after that happened. So we have to be a lot tougher than we are. Right now, they look at us as weak, soft, stupid people. Look at the scene on CNN right now. All the bodies all over the floor.
Okay.
And we're worried about waterboarding.
Talk about a dialectic. You know, the establishment comes in and says, torture everybody, take all rights, go after the Tea Party. Meanwhile, they're funding Al-Qaeda and ISIS and turning them loose everywhere. Trump comes in and says, don't run Al-Qaeda, don't run ISIS, don't turn them over to Syria, don't do this to Libya. It's a disaster. You screwed up. No, they did it by design. Hillary admits Syria and Libya are what they want, quote, failed states. Okay? That's the facts. Then he says, let's get tough on these people. Don't bring them in. Stop them being brought in. And when we catch them, let's torture them to find out where the other ones are at.
Right.
Okay, well, if we hadn't financed them and turned them loose and funded Saudi Arabia and bought trillions in their oil, this wouldn't be happening. So Trump, you cut off Saudi Arabia, you cut off their oil, you block bringing these people in, you deport everybody that shoots their mouth off about jihad, you throw their ass in jail, they're not as citizens, you put them on an airplane and send them back to their third world dirt hole. You send them back to their rat hole. That's getting tough, and you return the republic. And anybody, you got free speech, but when you say you want to overthrow things and put a monotheistic cult in, you're not an American, you're a terrorist, and you need to get your butt out of this country. That's how you get tough. That's what you do, Trump. Got it? That's it. not butchering the Bill of Rights and Constitution. Now, I respect Trump for saying what he wants to say and what he wants to do. This is going to fall into the hands of the neocons and the fascist, communist, liberal filth. Sorry, Leanne, go ahead.
No, I totally agree with you, and that's why I wanted to bring this up, is that they are going, you can even see Wolf Blitzer, he's like leading, oh, so how far would you go with the torture? Oh, how would you? Oh, yeah, just licking it. And the establishment is just, this will be the thing that they'll say, you know what, let's go ahead and put Trump in because he can convince all of these Americans to build their own prison.
Trump needs to start talking about prosecuting Hillary and prosecuting the neocons for running Al-Qaeda and ISIS and putting them in charge. And Merkel needs to be arrested. And Hollande, they brought him in. They aided and abetted. They opened the door. They stood down so they could take our rights. And they're doing it. And we see through it. And we're done.
Absolutely.
I'm sorry, Leanne. I don't mean to be screaming while you're in there. Let's go out to break with one more clip. Let's go to this clip. Be very vigilant, very strong. We're not going to have a country back. That's right. We need to be vigilant and point out that criminals run our country that are in alliance with radical, Sunni, Wahhabist, filth, garbage. Here's the clip.
You look at what's going on in Germany, you look at what's going on even in a part of Sweden where they're having problems like they never thought possible. Sweden never had problems like this where a group came in and now all of a sudden they have a section. So we can be nice about it and we can be politically correct about it, but we're being fools, okay? We're being absolute.
All right, Leanne, I want to hold you over the next 5 minutes so you can talk before we go to Larry Nichols and then take some phone calls. And then we have the Senate candidate right now, the Republican candidate, a great lady, a doctor that's beating John McCain. But he's always getting beaten, and they just steal the election. Major election fraud news coming up as well. But Leanne, we should get mad, though. I mean, you were mad this morning. I really am fundamentally mad that our government's run by people bringing jihadis in, and their answer is take all our rights away.
Yeah, and then they see where they can use Trump to push that surveillance state.
Yeah, you made really great points. I'm going to try to shut up for 4 or 5 minutes when we come back to give you the floor to flesh out more of your points and where you see this election going. Then we've got Larry Nichols popping in with Inside Baseball on how they plan to start a civil war, which becomes clearer and clearer every day. Second hour, tell folks to call in. Tell your friends to listen right now, not call in. We're going to take phones later, but tell folks to tune in right now. This is a war. We have the truth. We can smash the enemy. Hey, I'm not name dropping right now, but I need to push people like Dave Mustaine and Billy Corgan and other really smart people that are libertarians, free humans, not conservative, not liberal, especially when you're talking about Corrigan, to come on the show because they're always making great points to me in text and messages and stuff. And then they're like, yeah, I'll come on. It never happens. And then there's Dave Mustaine in a bombshell interview on Fox. You know, he could obviously attack when he comes out and speaks out, but Billy's making some really good points here in text about a show you want to host. Billy, we know you're coming to town next month. You got to come in studio.
He's on
or
tour.
We want you on tomorrow via Skype or something because he's watching right now. And I'm not name dropping him. I mean, he won't mind. He's just such a smart guy. And I would call him a real liberal. Liberal means more freedom, more of your tax money, more right to self-defense, more choices, more tolerance. Like, I'm tolerant of everybody. I don't even dislike anybody. And I don't mean to start screaming and yelling. That's not an act, folks. I'm genuinely, you see me today. Have I been pissed today?
Yeah. I mean, and I would be too. It gets so frustrating. And you are able to take that anger and channel it and, put that force field out there.
You do it better than I. Leanne, you got the floor. You got a lot of points for 3.5 minutes. Go ahead.
Well, I just wanted to bring this up with Donald Trump because, I do feel like he is someone who's on the outside, and we've been watching how they've been attacking him. We've got to take him down. We've got to dismantle him. And at every turn, calling him a Nazi, he's Hitler. And then now when it comes to something like this, where he wants to increase the surveillance, change the laws on torture, they're just kind of letting him speak and letting him put himself in that position because so many Americans support Donald Trump. And I mean, there's signs where people are like, build that wall, I'll help you build it. And I know David Knight makes this point a lot, that if we have a wall, we're stuck inside of it, and
the wall's a total stunt. They'll just tunnel under it.
But it's even the virtual wall, the cyber wall, this surveillance state, this security. I mean, we're begging them to build a prison to keep us safe, and we know that that's a tried.
And we know it'll be used against us and not the foaming at the mouth criminals and jihadis who are leaving their own countries because they're constantly killing each other. Mm-hmm. Why would I'm not even against these people because there's some nice people in those countries, but a good percentage of them, a good minority of them are just psycho killers who absolutely believe it's okay to murder whoever they want. and like keep women as slaves. I mean, as a woman, what is it like for you? Because I have daughters, and the jihadists really punch my buttons now that I have daughters. I mean, let me tell you, some jihadi, like they do in Europe, ever slaps my daughters around or bosses them around somewhere, there's a reason all this dominating folks is going on in Europe. America's had its huevos chopped off to a certain extent, but not completely.
Yeah, no, for me, that's one of the most frustrating things that I'm having to watch. And to see a certain regressive left, as Paul calls them, just making excuses and saying, well, why would you attack their ideology? And then I think it was Bill Maher who comes out and says, well, killing women who've been raped. I think I have a problem with that kind of ideology. Like, it's the woman's fault that she was raped, but she disgraced, so she's going to get acid thrown in her face. And we're seeing that now being imported to Sweden and Germany. And
everybody that's upset about this needs to speak out against it. And I know Billy has, and I know Dave has, and a lot of folks have courage. So many other big movie stars, TV people, rock stars won't speak out because they're so scared. They better be scared of losing all of our freedoms if we don't stand up now. Folks, now is the time is what I'm getting at.
Yeah, it absolutely. And that's the thing that's frightening, is because I'm seeing we are on this precipice here with Trump. I mean, he's such a, the real American hero, but then he's like, and he, in his heart, I honestly think that he does want to protect us and keep us safe.
Sure, well, he knows the military's been torturing since Vietnam.
Right.
So he knows it's going on, so he says, yeah, we're going to do it. And you know what's going on.
Well, and that's what
he's a realist about it, but he doesn't get the sophistication. Or maybe he does. I just don't know.
Well, that's what he said to Wolf Blitzer. He's like, I don't agree that the military doesn't want to torture. He says they're saying that to be politically correct.
Well, look, you don't put it in law and you don't do it. Occasionally, a guy's got a bomb strapped to a 5-year-old and is about to blow him up with him. I've talked to special forces people that went ahead and tortured the guy to get him to, to get the codes. But you don't sit there and write it down, and you don't just do it in a general system.
Or take pictures.
Leanne, exactly. Great job. Or you turn into the monsters you're fighting. If you're a radio listener, you can obviously go to Infowars.com to see it. It's a Paul Joseph Watson article, the full video. Obama was giving hour-long interviews on ESPN. He was at a baseball game for 4 hours. He was all over the place, meeting with Raul Castro, the dictator, the hereditary dictator, like North Korea. They pass it to the family, the new royalty. Just laughing, and had 56 seconds to say about what happened in Brussels, Belgium, where our reporters were a day and a half, 2 days after the Paris attacks, which is an hour and a half away, and the terrorists had reportedly run there. They caught the mastermind last week. So as a diversion, obviously, they launched these attacks to be able to evacuate. Our experts believe, not just Joe Biggs, but counterterrorism specialists like Tim Kennedy, but Biggs is an expert as well, living through it, that there will now be more attacks. And when there are more attacks, the answer will be, it's Donald Trump for criticizing Islam. And it's Donald Trump for blaming Islam. It's truly sick. There are Muslims that don't want to blow things up and that you would see as apostates or heretics, according to mainline Sunni Shiite Muslims. Now, from my research, the Sunni Wahhabists are the most dangerous, virulent group. They're the dominant group out of Saudi Arabia. They're running around bullying everybody worldwide, mainly Muslims, Alawites, Shiites, and others. And they're extremely oppressive. Shiites around the world let Christians and Jews live and operate in peace. If they don't get political, the minute they do, they're deader than a hammer. They're the original Muslims. The Wahhabists are sex trade, slave trade scum, desert bandits that took over in 1901 and created Saudi Arabia by 1930, set up the royal house, British, and bring them in worldwide. They'll attack, and then the West will be able to take its citizens' liberty. Tim Kennedy, again, anti-terrorism specialist, the highest levels of Army counterterrorism. I won't even get into what units. He won't even tell me, but I've looked it up and I know. She came on the show and said, our governments and the left are bringing them in to destabilize and bring in crises to take our freedoms. That's what I'm telling you. That's the fact. Now, Larry Nichols, in his own right, was counterterrorism and a Green Beret and special operations in Latin America and Europe and you name it. He could speak to all this, and he ran campaigns for the Clintons. He was their big insider. He was in the hospital last week. He's out by the grace of God. We appreciate him joining us, but we now have what we predicted last week with Trump insider Roger Stone saying, look for the Jeb Bush to endorse Bush, Freudian slip, their surrogate, their minion, because their name is fried, Ted Cruz. Now, I like Ted Cruz's rhetoric, but boy, his pedigree is Bush all the way. I'm not going to get back into it, but we'll play that short clip. It's about a minute long, coming up a little bit later. We have Arizona primary with Trump wins Arizona, Cruz wins Utah. Brussels terror, 3 suspects identified suicide bombers were brothers. They came in reportedly posing as migrant refugees. There's evidence of election fraud up on DrudgeReport.com from Godlike Productions, going through Utah caucuses. Mastermind bomber who posed as migrant attacked Paris last year is now chief suspect in Belgian atrocities. Police swoop in on home district in these no-go zones that they said Trump was lying about. They are also asking who would be a better fighter of terror, Trump or Clinton? Clinton's running ISIS and Al-Qaeda on record. Meanwhile, a teacher who witnessed his Muslim students celebrating in the classroom after the attack, Paul Joseph Watson reports on, was given a police visit for his free speech. Yoga instructor shocked at support for terror bombings. A Belgian yoga instructor who tweeted that Muslim children were celebrating the attacks in Brussels later received a home visit from the police. Oh. On the same morning that the attacks unfolded, Ivar Mole tweeted, "How do you remember a lesson if there is your class," this is translated, "is applauded by Muslim children?" The tweet was accompanied by hashtags, and it went into the attack. Hours later, he tweeted that 3 police officers had visited his home and that there was no way he'd be tweeting in the future. Quote, "No longer will be tweeting." The police said they visited him because we wanted to see what was going on and whether it was true that there was applause in the classroom. Yeah, right. 7 strange questions about the Brussels terror attacks. We'll talk about that as well. But joining us is Larry Nichols, the consummate Clinton insider, to talk about what's happening, what's unfolding. Larry, what do you want to tackle first? The election, the bombings, the latest inside baseball on the investigation into the Scalia death. What's front and center, my friend?
Front and center, Alex, I believe, is the election. Just before coming on this program, I received information about the strategy from the RNC, the new strategy. And pretty dastardly. But, you know, Alex, I got to say this in front of your audience. I've done worse things in elections. I mean, I've rigged more elections than most people have voted in. What they're going to do, and this comes from what you saw with Jeb Bush endorsing Cruz, what they're going to do is they're going to go to all extremes to make sure that Trump does not get 1237. They're going to do everything they can. They're going to back him. They're going to support Cruz. They're going to look like they're on fire for Cruz. But it's simply to keep Trump from getting 1237. At that point, they've got a brokered convention. And you know, Alex, I tried to tell people last time I was on with you.
You said this 10 months ago on our show.
I know. You know, these parties, folks, they're not government agencies. They can change the rules as they choose, when they choose. They're rigging it against Trump. Now, I would give anything if somebody in this audience had the ability to get Trump to call me, because I can tell him what they're going to do and give a strategy against it. For example, they're fixing to start showing on the news that Trump's audiences are diminishing. That's right. They're going to start showing that his big speeches and all these people coming by the tens of thousands, they're diminishing. You know how they're doing that? They're doing that with George Soros. You see, these protesters that are showing up at Trump's speeches,
they're blocking the people from getting there.
Well, what they're trying to do, they're trying to get people to come out with violence, start ruckuses, because they know, Alex, that moral Christian conservatives, they're not into that. And so why would people come to a speech when they run the risk of getting hurt?
Why would you bring your children to something that would be irresponsible? Sure, it's a chilling effect.
It is. And then, so of course, guess what happens? You get to hear that his audiences are dwindling down. The magic is gone.
So the answer is it's got to be bigger audiences for the First Amendment to counter that baloney.
Absolutely. You know, folks, I'm going to tell you something. I'm going to tell you how to counter that. Go to Trump's rallies. When you see these paid protesters, don't pay them any attention. Don't get in a shouting fest with them. Don't do anything. Just pretend they are not there. Now, the other thing, anybody that gets attacked, this is a little inside trick that I guess I can be shot for telling you, but I'll tell you. Anybody that gets attacked, they need to file criminal charges. But what's neat about filing criminal charges, Alex, these people are being paid to be there. They're being paid to be there.
And so they go back and demand lawyers and all the rest of it, and that exposes the racketeering operation.
You got it. And whoever paid them to go to that speech and to protest and throw a fit and cause violence, that person is a co-conspirator.
Sure. When are people going to start pushing back to Soros? I mean, that old, ugly, Nazi collaborator. I mean, why is that guy so above the law?
Money, power. You know, he's right at the epicenter. You know, I told you until I'm sick of telling that they're not going to indict Hillary. I don't think there's anybody now that has any doubt they're not going to indict Hillary. And the RNC is doing everything it can to make sure Hillary wins. I know it sounds crazy, but they are. They're going to pick their original candidate. I feel like may still come back into the fold, because once they go to that brokered convention, you understand they can pick anybody they want.
Sure, when you were on 9-10 months ago saying that they're their own group, they can do whatever they want, they can stage it. Even the NFL's own tickets say it's all fake. Now, it's not all fake, but when they want to make it fake, it is fake. It's even on the tickets like it's a WWF wrestling match. Well, the parties are even worse. They now have the head of the RNC Rules Committee on CNBC. I'm sure you saw that clip, admitting, look, it's all staged, your vote doesn't matter. She says, so there shouldn't be a primary? He goes, that's right, and laughs at her.
That's right. And, you know, they go with this ruse that the first time around in the convention, the delegates have to vote with the vote of their state. That is an out-and-out lie. The delegates that are elected, when they get to that convention, get to vote their free will. That is the actual rule. And all this is about is to strip Trump of 1237. They beat him out of 1237, Alex. And we're going to get an appointed presidential candidate for the RNC.
And they're now openly admitting Paul Ryan or Mitt Romney and having liberal media even mainline that that's okay to now have appointed candidates. There'll be a backlash against the Republicans, and Hillary will sail into victory.
That's exactly it. That's it. You know, folks, I'm going to tell you, we can stop this. We can stop it, Alex. But Donald Trump, now, I'm not trying to get a job. I don't want to work for Donald Trump. I want to do what I do while I still have breath in my lungs, which may not be that long. I want to do what I do. He has got to call me. Because, as you know, Alex, maybe you can convince him, I've got inside tips on what's coming.
Well, I'm able to get messages to him, but that's about it. And he's surrounded by some pretty good folks, but some of them are pretty young. But yes, definitely, he does get the info that's on this show. But let's come back and talk about it. I was back in the break room getting a glass of iced tea during the break. And DirecTV, we have cable and DirecTV, and I think Dish. We have a lot of different communications here, a bunch of different internet services, wireless links, you name it, to try to be redundant when power goes out. We have generators, you name it. I mean, this is a defensive resistance operation set up basically around military doctrines of resistance during an occupation. And I've read the national emergency documents. We've been under martial law since 1933 with the War Powers Act and Franklin Roosevelt, but they've been slowly expanding them. And now under the different executive orders and civil emergencies that Larry Nichols talks about, that we've written articles about, they say We have, quote, re-education camps prepared for the Tea Party. I mean, that's in Army manuals. Why do you think military people are going public? Like Tim Kennedy about America's in trouble, we're not going to confiscate guns. Because they got the military training for it. And just during the break, they had an EAS alert. And then I walked out and walked by and looked at cable TV. And it was on one of the channels there as well that was cable. I mean, they're practicing taking over. They've got the internet kill switch in place. I'm going to go ahead and have Larry Nichols with us till 50 after. This is a short segment. But it just hit me. We're under martial law when they have parties appointing candidates. I mean, they've had that on the books since 76, Democrats since 72, but the boldness of it, and the boldness of don't use the word mother or father, and you use the wrong word, we're going to arrest you. And Europe's doing it. They've arrested the front runner, Marie Le Pen, who's a milquetoast conservative. People didn't recognize Nazi Germany or Soviet Russia in the middle of it till later. We are entering sick stuff, and rolling over to it, folks, is not the answer. I want to talk about solutions and how to counter this in the next segment. We got about 3-4 minutes left, Larry. You know, you were involved in all sorts of regime change in Latin America, black ops, and you can't get into it, it's classified. But that's why they hired you for dirty tricks, obviously, you know, with the Clintons and the Dixie mob. It's all the same group. But you're a guy that's reformed, woke up to it, and said, I'm not killing kids. That's the backstory, folks, that just tuned in. You know, you found your soul again, as you said, and hit your knees, and that's great. But a lot of folks in government are doing that too right now, but the system's just moving forward. You talk about the Strong Cities UN initiative. That was in my local paper that the UN's going to tell my government how to work. I mean, I'm living under world government now, and the average yuppie has no idea what they're living under. What's coming next, Larry? And everything you just heard me say, is that wrong or is that right?
No, that's all right. Excuse the dog, somebody's walking by. But let me say this. Executive Order 13391, I know you've reported on it. It is the National Patriots Defense of Liberty Enabler Act. That thing calls, Alex, that thing calls for federal territories to fall, all federal territories to fall under Agenda 21, number one. But here's the kicker. It also facilitates the president to bring in UN troops to this country. Now, guys, if you don't think we're close, remember what I told you, Alex, about Cuba?
It says it officially. It's been in the Washington Post. You said 6 months ago they were going to use Cuban troops as part of the invasion force because they can mix in and speak Spanish. I mean, if it was Chinese troops or Russian, folks would fight.
Listen, it is 6 hours. They can have 250,000 black hat troops in this country. I have fought them. They're formidable. They are. Now, add to that executive order, where did it come from? Where did it come from, Alex, out of the blue? Why would he do that? Then, Obama normalizes relationship with Cuba. But here's the kicker. Why did he go to Cuba? I mean, go down there to watch a ball game? You see, there are plans that have to be made, I believe, towards the facilitation of bringing those troops into this country that he can't make out of the White House.
And I tell you, the left would worship that. They would love to see foreign troops kicking conservatives and veterans' guts out in the street. They just lust for our blood.
Well, I'm telling you, he's over there right now, I believe. I can't prove this in a court of law, but soon I will be able to.
Castro looked like he was having an orgasm. The communists look like heaven has happened when he's over there.
Yeah, and I'm telling you, they're working out the fine details of this operation. Now, we got to do what you were saying, Alex. We can't just talk about these things. We got to stop them. Stop them. There is a way to stop that executive order. The solution, as you
Stay there. Let's talk about it in a long segment. Stay there and how to get Trump informed of what's happening and where this is all going, Larry Nichols. And, of course, you say Trump may be informed and stop him, but you're also saying Obama may double-cross Hillary. So let's talk about the different scenarios. Are there 3, are there 4, are there 5? With the consummate insider, Larry Nichols, I'm Alex Jones. And make no mistake, the Republic has never been in greater danger. This is really happening. Things are geopolitically so dangerous. There's so much open, classical, authoritarian, totalitarian behavior going on The preparations are staggering. All over the U.S., they're spending billions to put cable highway dividers out in the most rural areas so you can't turn around and jump on the other side of the highway. America is having extra highway dividers placed at key positions to lock down and cordon cities. And the only people that are awake are the military because they're being trained to do it, and they are freaking out. And they're tuning into this show. I don't really know how valuable that is. I think it's valuable, but they don't know what to do because the public only cares about Beyonce, who's saying let's have race riots at the Super Bowl, which is financed by the government again. All run by the system to bring the country down. I don't know how grave it is. I don't know if this is a beta test for 5 or 10 years down the road, but no spy novel, no movie could come close. I mean, nothing I've seen in 25 years of being politically involved, 21 years on air, comes close to the confluence, the perfect storm, the lining up of the constellations on this. I've gone the last year from having a bad feeling in my spider sense being off the chart to now it's just you're in it. I'm not even really nervous anymore. I'm just like, wow, what's coming next? It's crazy. We're going to go back to Larry Nichols here in a moment. Also, they make a big joke out about this almost weekly in national news. And I want to show some of these articles soon and do a commercial showing it, going, with a laugh track. Look at the Washington Post saying Alex Jones is crazy, or look at this publication. He claims, and then I'll just cut to glyphosate is in all water. Even EPA and FDA say track, showing Reuters. And then I cut to super high quality gravity-fed filters that reduce or completely remove. But when I say reduce, like 99.9% studies, the third-party test are all up on InfoWarsStore.com. It's how we fund our operation. It's a no-brainer. It's 10% off promo code WATER. It's the vetted, tested, best filters that don't just take out bad taste. Maybe you don't care about yourself. You got this bulletproof attitude like it's. Our water, just look at what's happening up in, Michigan and places in Flint. That's nothing. It runs the gamut. It is a nightmare scenario. They take healthy water, good, clean aquifer water, and dump tons of poison in it right here in Austin. You need these filters, shower filters, water filters, all of it. You need these, and we've got all sorts of survival straws and life straws and other great systems. The very best systems, a whole wide selection, bigger than you'll find at a huge department store, even a survival store, at InfoWarsStore.com, or call toll-free 888-253-3139. I sell things you need that fund our operation. It's extremely expensive to run. I'm not complaining. It's a mission. I'm very happy. But take advantage of the nutraceuticals at InfoWarsLife.com, the Anthroplex back in stock, the Super Mel Vitality, the Brain Force, the X2 Nascent Iodine, and the dozens of other great products, the Game Changers. InfoWarsLife.com, InfoWarsStore.com is the umbrella site. 20% off the Liver Shield Deep Cleanse and Oxy Powder for the 6-day deep cleanse. That's back in. InfoWarsLife.com, InfoWarsStore.com.